The air in Ouagadougou's airport was thick with tension, the kind that clings to the skin like damp heat. It was 1:45, and the VIP lounge, usually a quiet enclave for diplomats and the elite, buzzed with an electric unease. Outside, the African sky glittered with stars, indifferent to the drama unfolding below. Inside, a small group stood around a polished mahogany table, their faces illuminated by the sterile glow of overhead lights. At the center of it all was Ibrahim Traoré, Burkina Faso's young president, his gaze steady but heavy with the weight of what was about to unfold. On the table before him lay a single sheet of paper, a list of 17 names, each tied to one of the 17 suitcases that now sat in a neat row along the lounge's far wall. $17 million. 17 betrayals. Traoré's voice cut through the silence, calm but resonant. All of this is money earned from our gold, he said, his finger tapping the list. The words hung in the air, accusing, unyielding. Every pair of eyes in the room, soldiers, officials, and one trembling French ambassador, followed his gesture. The airport, normally a ghost town at this hour with only a few security guards and cleaning staff milling about, was tonight a fortress. Traoré's elite Red Beret unit had sealed every exit, their rifles glinting under the fluorescent lights. Armored vehicles encircled a French diplomatic plane idling on the runway, its engines humming impatiently, waiting for a clearance that would never come. The VIP lounge's windows were fogged with condensation, a stark contrast to the crisp night air outside. Around the table stood Burkina Faso's inner circle, Colonel Madou Caboret, the sharp-eyed intelligence chief, Ousmane Diop, the airport director, whose usual composure was fraying, Aminata Traoré, the justice minister, her expression a mix of fury and determination, and the night's central figure, French ambassador Jacques Dubois. Dubois was a study in discomfort. Sweat beaded on his forehead, trickling down to stain the collar of his tailored suit. His hands twitched, and he shifted in his seat, trying to mask his unease. Mr. President, he began, his voice wavering but striving for authority, this must be a misunderstanding. Diplomatic immunity is protected under international law. Traoré raised a hand, silencing him. His eyes held no anger, only a deep, weary disappointment. Immunity, Ambassador, he said, his voice low and deliberate, is not a shield for stealing a nation's wealth. A diplomatic passport does not grant you the right to commit theft. The room stilled. Dubois opened his mouth to protest, but no words came. Colonel Caboret stepped forward, flipping open a thick dossier on the table. He pulled out a series of photographs, grainy stills from the airport security cameras. 10:47 p.m., he read, his voice clipped and precise. 3 vehicles from the French embassy enter the airport. 11:15 p.m., these 17 suitcases are loaded onto the plane. 11:38 p.m., you, Ambassador Dubois, arrive at the VIP lounge. 11:45 p.m., the plane requests takeoff clearance. He looked up, his gaze pinning Dubois. Care to explain? These are diplomatic cargo, Dubois protested, his voice rising. Protected under the Vienna Convention, Aminata interrupted, her tone sharp as a blade, also states that diplomatic cargo must not contain weapons, drugs, or illegal materials. So tell us, Ambassador, what's in these suitcases? Dubois fell silent. His eyes darted toward the door, where 2 red beret soldiers stood, their faces impassive. There was no escape, no diplomatic immunity to shield him now. Traoré leaned forward, his voice a single, heavy word, open them. The room seemed to hold its breath. 2 soldiers stepped forward, lifting the first suitcase onto the table. It was black, sturdy, adorned with diplomatic seals that gleamed under the lights. Caboret photographed each seal, his camera clicking in the silence. Evidence, he said coolly. So no one can deny what we find. The lock clicked open, and the lid was raised slowly, deliberately. When the contents came into view, Ousmane Diop let out an involuntary whistle. My God, he murmured. The suitcase was packed with neatly stacked euro banknotes, each bundle wrapped with bands bearing the seal of the French central bank. Caboret donned a pair of gloves and lifted one stack, inspecting it under the light. €100 notes, he said. 10,000 euros per stack. He counted quickly, his fingers moving with practiced precision. Exactly 1 million euros. Traoré's expression didn't change, but his voice carried a quiet fury. And this is just the beginning. He reached into a side compartment of the suitcase and pulled out a small, heavy object. A gold bar, stamped with Burkina Faso's national crest. Then another, and another. These are ours, he said, holding one up. Gold from our mines, extracted by the sweat of our people. Dubois's face had turned ashen, his earlier composure crumbling. I don't know about these, he stammered. Embassy personnel must have acted on their own, don't lie, Aminata snapped, her voice cutting through his words. Each bar is dated. Extracted within the last month. All left with export records, but where did the payments go? Not to us. The second suitcase was opened, revealing a stack of documents, hundreds of pages thick. Caboret shone a UV light over them, his eyes narrowing. These are originals, he said, his voice tinged with disbelief. Not photocopies. State documents. Aminata began leafing through them, her face growing graver with each page. Mining maps, she said. Unannounced gold reserves. Uranium deposits. She paused, her breath catching. And our newly discovered oil fields. This information is ultra-secret, Caboret said, his voice tight. Only 5 people in the government know about the oil fields. His eyes flicked to the list on the table. You, me, the energy minister, the chief of staff, and, he stopped, his gaze locking on a name. Geology Director Pascal Ouagadougou. Traoré nodded grimly. So he's been bought. Dio, still processing the revelation, leaned forward. How valuable is this information? Aminata's response was immediate. If foreign companies get this before public tenders, they can position themselves early. Buy land, make deals with local firms. Billions of dollars in advantage. Dubois made a weak attempt to stand. I need to use the restroom, he said, his voice barely above a whisper. Sit down, Traoré said, his tone unchanged but laced with steel. We're just getting started. The third suitcase yielded a cascade of photographs, each one a damning piece of evidence. Caboret spread them across the table, narrating as he went. Minister Ouagadougou at a Paris nightclub, he said, holding up a photo. With French arms dealers. Another image, General Kwame at a Geneva bank, carrying a briefcase full of cash. Another, Governor Zangrana's wife shopping in Paris, bills paid by a French mining company. The photos were meticulous, each time-stamped, each location noted. A professional operation of surveillance and blackmail. What were you planning to do with these? Traoré asked Dubois, his voice low but piercing. Blackmail our leaders. Control them. Dubois said nothing, his silence louder than any confession. The fourth suitcase brought a new shock. Caboret stepped back, his voice cautious. Weapons. The case was filled with advanced surveillance equipment, listening devices small enough to fit in a pen, cameras disguised as buttons, drones no larger than sparrows, signal jammers, and frequency scanners. Caboret picked up one device, his brow furrowing. This has the NSA logo. American intelligence equipment. How did it end up in French hands? NATO, Aminata said bitterly. Allies sharing technology, but using it against Africa's independent nations. The fifth suitcase contained a collection of identities, fake passports, driver's licenses, diplomatic cards, all bearing different names but the same faces. Dio held up a passport. I recognize this man. He was here last month as a human rights observer. Aminata picked up another ID. This one interviewed Minister Ouagadougou last week, posing as a journalist. Caboret compared the documents. Jean-Pierre Martin, François Dubois, Michel Bernard. 3 identities, 1 person. Traoré turned to the window, staring out at the plane still waiting on the runway. How long have you been playing this game? He asked, his back to Dubois. How many years have you sent spies to our country? How many years have you blackmailed our leaders? Stolen our gold, our uranium, our oil. The 6th suitcase deepened the silence. Inside were Burkina Faso's most sensitive military documents, troop deployment plans, weapons inventories, personnel lists, and strategic weak points. Traoré's voice shook as he spoke. This is kept in the General Staff's safe. Only 3 people have access. 4, Traoré corrected. You forgot Mariam, the cleaning lady. 20 years in the General Staff building, unnoticed, invisible. But she sees everything. Hears everything. Traoré stared, incredulous. That old woman. Don't be fooled by appearances, Traoré said. The best spies are the ones no one suspects. The 7th suitcase was a trove of currencies, dollars, euros, pounds, even Chinese yuan. Bribery funds, Aminata said, her voice dripping with disdain. Payments in whatever currency they want. The 8th suitcase held luxury goods, Rolex watches, diamond necklaces, high-end electronics. Each item came with a card. Traoré read one aloud, to General Kafando's valued wife, a small gift. Another. For Governor Zangrana's son, a graduation present. Aminata's face twisted in disgust. They're not just buying officials. They're buying their families. The 9th suitcase brought a personal blow. Traoré dropped the papers he was holding, his voice barely a whisper. This is impossible. Inside were documents about Traoré's private life, photographs, audio recordings, even medical reports. Traoré picked up a file, his expression unreadable. My last checkup results. Only my doctor and I knew these. Traoré held up another document. Transcripts of your private security meeting, word for word. Date, last Tuesday. Time, 3 p.m. Location, secure room. Topic, closure of French bases. We swept that room for bugs, Traoré said, his voice rising. There can't be a device. Maybe not a device, Traoré said. But a person. The room fell silent as the implication sank in. Only 3 people had been in that meeting, Traoré, Traoré, and the defense minister. The defense minister was there for only 5 minutes, Traoré said. He left for an urgent call. About an arms shipment. From France. Traoré's eyes widened. What a coincidence. The 10th suitcase contained scientific reports, geological surveys, soil analyses, water resource maps. These are state secrets, Aminata said. Years of work by our universities. Traoré nodded. And now French companies will use them to make offers, as if they discovered our resources themselves. The 11th suitcase held propaganda materials, brochures, posters, and professionally produced videos promising a new future for Burkina Faso under General Laurent Quimper. Traoré's eyes narrowed. We thought Quimper died in the 2019 coup attempt. Apparently not, Traoré said, examining a video. Filmed in Paris. You can see the Eiffel Tower in the background. The 12th suitcase contained small vials, powder packets, and capsules. Dio frowned. What are these? Traoré examined one, his face paling. Poisons. Odorless, tasteless, untraceable. Simulates heart attacks, strokes, food poisoning. Traoré's voice was cold. An assassination kit. Who were you planning to kill, Ambassador? Dubois broke his silence, his voice desperate. I'm just a courier. I didn't know what was in these. You loaded 17 suitcases yourself, Traoré said. The cameras don't lie. The 13th suitcase required a technology expert. Abdul Il-Budo, a young IT specialist, was summoned. After examining the contents, hard drives, USBs, CDs, he looked up, his face grave. "Mr. President, these are copies of our entire digital infrastructure. Government systems, banking networks, telecommunications. With passwords." Dio's voice trembled. "What does that mean?" Abdul's answer was stark. "Whoever has these can paralyze the country. Stop banks, cut communications, disable the power grid. Cyber warfare," Traoré said. "No tanks, no planes. Just computers." The 14th suitcase contained oil and gas contracts, their terms lopsided. Aminata pointed to a clause. 80% of all oil and gas goes to the French company. We get 20. Caboret added, a 50-year concession. Traoré held up a signature page. "And here's my signature. A perfect forgery." The 15th suitcase held lists of names, thousands of them. Students, teachers, journalists, clergy, artists. Traoré's face darkened. A threat list. Anyone who might oppose their regime. Aminata pointed to codes next to the names. K for kill, T for arrest, S for exile. Caboret counted. 47 marked for death, including you, Mr. President. The 16th suitcase contained high-resolution satellite images of Burkina Faso's military bases, weapons depots, and fuel tanks. "An invasion plan," Aminata said. "They're just waiting for the order." Before opening the 17th suitcase, Traoré took a deep breath. "This is the last one," he said. "Let's see what it holds." Inside was a single black file, embossed with gold letters, Operation Sankara, Secret. Traoré's hands trembled as he opened it. The first page bore the date October 15, 1987, the day Thomas Sankara, Burkina Faso's revolutionary leader, was assassinated. The file detailed the operation, a French CIA collaboration to eliminate Sankara and install a pro-Western government. Photographs showed Sankara's bullet-riddled body, blood staining the floor. Traoré turned to the final pages. Operation Sankara, Phase 2. Target, Ibrahim Traoré. Objective, eliminate Traoré, who continues Sankara's legacy. Methods, political pressure, economic embargo, physical elimination. Budget, 50 million euros. Status, active. The room was silent, the weight of history pressing down. Traoré closed the file, his face a mask of resolve. 36 years, he said. The same scenario, the same methods, the same killers. Du Bois stood, his voice pleading. "I didn't know about this. I swear." "Be quiet," Traoré said. He turned to Caboret. "Colonel, arrest everyone on the 17-name list. Search their homes and offices. Seize their assets." "Yes, sir," Caboret replied. "Aminata, call an extraordinary parliament meeting tomorrow. The people will see these documents." "Understood," she said. "Dio, close the airport. No one enters or leaves. Cancel all flights." "As you command," Dio said. Traoré faced Du Bois. "You, ambassador, have one chance. You'll return to Paris with a message, copies of everything in these suitcases. Tell them Burkina Faso is no longer a colony. Our resources are ours. You killed Sankara, but you couldn't kill his ideas." He paused, his voice hardening. "And tell Laurent Quimper and his friends, let them come. We're ready." As dawn broke, Ouagadougou stirred. At 6 a.m., Burkina Faso's national television interrupted its broadcast. Traoré appeared, the 17 suitcases behind him. "Dear citizens," he began, "tonight, we witnessed a turning point in our history." For 2 hours, he revealed the contents of each suitcase, broadcasting documents, photos, and recordings to the world. 17 suitcases, he concluded. $17 million. 17 traders. But we are 17 million Burkinabe, and we are awake. The streets of Ouagadougou erupted. Thousands poured out, waving flags and chanting, "Long live independence! Down with colonialism!" In Paris, crisis meetings raged. The French president demanded action, but his foreign minister urged caution. The world is watching. The evidence is undeniable. If we intervene, we lose Africa. It was too late. Burkina Faso's defiance sparked a domino effect. In Mali, President Assimi Goïta ordered reviews of French contracts. In Niger, youth marched, demanding, "We want our 17 suitcases." Similar movements flared in Guinea, Senegal, and Ivory Coast. At the United Nations, Burkina Faso's representative presented the evidence, challenging the French delegate. What does international law say about stealing a nation's resources? About killing its leaders? The Chinese and Russian representatives voiced support, while the US remained silent, caught in strategic ambiguity. In Ouagadougou, celebrations lit up the night. Drums echoed, and an old man wept, holding Sankara's photo. "We waited 36 years, he said. Justice is here." A young woman spoke into a microphone. "My father earns $2 a day in the mines, while the gold is worth $10,000. Now, that changes." Traoré addressed his cabinet. "France won't stay idle," the defense minister warned. "We're prepared," Traoré replied. "We have Mali, Niger, Russia, China, and our people." The economy minister raised concerns about sanctions. "We have gold, uranium, oil," Traoré said. "We'll print our currency, build our bank, create an African market." A week later, a French delegation led by Pierre Falcart arrived, seeking a new chapter. Traoré insisted on live broadcasts. "First, admit you killed Sankara," he demanded. After a long silence, Falcart conceded, "France played a role. We're sorry. It was a historic confession." Traoré laid out terms: cancel mining contracts, close military bases. Reluctantly, France agreed. Months later, Laurent Quimper attempted a coup with 200 mercenaries. Traoré's intelligence had foreseen it, and an ambush ended the threat swiftly. Quimper confessed in court, "France promised support, but they abandoned me." 6 months after the incident, Burkina Faso's economy surged. Gold revenues funded schools, health centers, and jobs. The international press dubbed it the Burkina Faso miracle. Traoré dismissed the term. "No miracle. We're using our resources. It's that simple." The 17 suitcases became a museum exhibit, the National Independence Museum. Visitors flocked daily, students learning their nation's story. An old teacher explained, "These suitcases held our stolen future. Our president took it back." A girl asked, "Will the French return?" The teacher smiled. "We're awake now. We won't sleep again." Years later, history books would call the 17 suitcases the spark of Africa's second independence, economic, real. Traoré became a legend, but he always said, "I opened the suitcases. My people won the victory." Burkina Faso, the land of upright people, lived up to its name. 17 suitcases, 17 million, 17 traders, one truth, freedom. That night, a nation's eyes opened, never to close again. A girl in the museum, gazing at the suitcases, asked, "Mom, is our gold ours now?" Her mother replied, "Yes, my daughter. Forever."